Look, AEMO, the country's official energy market operator, has given its update today. The upshot is that residents of Victoria, New South Wales and South Australia in particular face power shortages over summer. Let's get into that. I'm joined now. Sky News political reporter Cam Reddin from Canberra and News Corp senior reporter Peta Credlin from Melbourne. Gents, welcome. Patrick, to you first. The instability in the grid caused by renewables is part of the problem here, but it's exacerbated by delays in key energy projects. And yet, despite all of this, we've got the Teals and the Greens today continuing their crusade against new gas projects. Put it all together, the outlook's pretty grim.
Oh, look, it's dreadful, Peter. I mean, we need gas. We're putting coal down. Coal will not be with us. There's going to be a big gap. It's not going to be filled by renewables, obviously. The promises are not going to be fulfilled in terms of timelines and in terms of, targets. There's going to be a big hole when coal disappears. What's it going to be filled with if not gas? I mean, Anthony Albanese has talked about the need for gas for decades to come. And we can't even talk about nuclear at the moment because it's not even part of the debate. I mean, the idea that we don't have more gas come online is just, what does it mean for people who literally just want to turn on the lights whenever they feel like it? I mean, that sort of talk from the Teals and the Greens really is irresponsible and totally at odds with reality.
And I'll make the point too, the people who can least afford it are the ones that can't put the heater on and the lights on. If you're rich, you're fine, right? And it's also those industry jobs, those working class, blue collar jobs are the ones that are hit hardest because big industry requires big energy. So they lose, at both points, the ordinary low income Australian. Cam, just on the inflation data out yesterday, government quick to pat themselves on the back, and there was absolutely a small flaw. Less than was expected, but certainly a drop. The economists are making the point in the analysis today. They think that might be temporary. That's because those energy rebates are now being rolled out by the states and it's feeding in. And if you dig a little bit deeper in the numbers, the ABS data shows that underlying price pressures remain. Retail's suffering, and all of that's feeding into the RBA's decision making. I have to say, the Treasurer got back to his bloody day job, sat at his desk, focused on the economy and left Peter Dutton alone. I might have a bit more confidence.
Yeah, well, look, the personal character assessments aren't going to beat the coalition. That's the thing, Peter. To do that, Labor has to beat inflation. And we've been saying for most of this year that even though it bounces around, down a little bit this month, it's been up in other months, it more or less has hit that floor at around 3.5%, which it's been at basically since Christmas. And the fact is, that's just too high. The Reserve Bank says that, Treasury says that, so something has to happen to get it below 3.5%. The Reserve Bank's made that point too around rebates and subsidies. Yes, sure, they can take some of the edge off today, but it's a bit like putting your hand down on the mattress. As soon as you take it off, it springs back up to its natural level, and it's the underlying trend that remains the issue. Still a long way from that target band. In terms of the financial stress people are feeling too, we got another insight into that today. The big four banks are all appearing at a parliamentary committee here over the course of the next day or so. The Commonwealth Bank revealing today that 132,000 of its customers have been placed essentially on hardship payment plans over the course of the past 12 months. And many of those are young people, people under 35. That's where the real political potency is going to be too, Peter. You look at the votes of younger Australians, not just in the Labor coalition battles, but the Labor Greens contests as well, where Labor is bleeding votes to the Greens on issues like rent, on housing, and above all on cost of living. That's going to be such a big factor come election time.
Spot on. We'll stay with energy. You could have sold tickets to this today. I mean, I watched it. It was extraordinary. This debate between the Nationals leader, former Nationals leader Barnaby Joyce, and of course the former Liberal New South Wales Treasurer, now Chair of Labor's Climate Change Authority, Matt Keane, trading barbs at the Bush Summit in Orange. Have a listen.
The cheapest way of delivering reliable energy is firmed renewables. What's this, the Wizard of Oz? I mean, honestly, I tell you where the truth lies. Ladies and gentlemen, when you get that little thing in the mail with a box in it called the power bill, there lies the truth.
Power bills are going up for two very clear reasons. One, there's a war in the Ukraine. That has pushed the wholesale price. That has pushed the wholesale price of coal up.
We used to have the cheapest power in the world, and now we've got some of the dearest power in the world.
You can't beat the common sense arguments from Barnaby on this, and they don't wash with regional people, because not only are they seeing the bills we're all seeing, every time they say renewables are cheap, you get a bill and it goes up and up and up, so people don't believe them. Keen's obviously taking the government's coin here, so he's completely conflicted. But for people in regional Australia, Patrick, this is being rolled out across their paddocks. This is in their communities. They're not like the people in the leafy suburbs who might sort of vote green and never see any impact from a wind farm or a solar panel. This is in their towns, and I think the government's got a real fight on its hands.
I think absolutely, Peter. I mean, these projects are being imposed on people in the regions. I think Barnaby Joyce is channeling that deep resentment that they are feeling. Certainly here in Victoria, the right to object to a solar plant or transmission lines running through your farmland has sort of been curtailed in this crusade to try and get the renewables, targets online. It's being imposed on them. It's intrusive. A lot of people don't like it, and they haven't been consulted. It doesn't feel fair when their way of life, in some cases, is being challenged by this crusade. Politically, I think it's a big problem for Labor, and it will get worse as these projects keep going deeper and deeper across Australia.
Victorian Premier Jacinta Allan got herself in a bit of strife. She's come out very strongly in relation to visas for Palestinians to come to Australia from Gaza. She basically told a group in Geelong she's not even concerned necessarily about lots of checks and things like that. She made point scoring remarks in relation to Peter Dutton. There was a response today, a pretty sharp response from the Shadow Home Affairs Minister James Patterson. Have a listen.
The only person we would be less likely to take advice from on national security and community safety than Tony Burke is Jacinta Allan. I mean, this is a Premier who has presided over a youth crime crisis in Melbourne. She was outlining in that speech as a proposal that we should effectively do no security screening at all or checks at all for anyone who claims to be a refugee and wants to come to this country. Well, it is a great thing for our country that Jacinta Allan is only in the Victorian Parliament and not the federal Parliament, because that is a dangerously naive attitude to take towards national security.
Cam, this issue is not going away. Almost every day, Labor come out there and add to it. I know it's cutting through. I talked to the pollsters, and it'll still be there when Parliament returns. And I think this is dangerous for Labor.
Yeah, and what we're really waiting for now, Peter, is to learn exactly what's going to happen to the roughly 1,300 people that are already here. We know the government has been teasing this idea of staying here permanently. They're still yet to lay out, though, what that visa would look like, what the exact terms would be, and what that pathway would look like as well. It's quick to point out that at the moment it is a bit of a stalemate in terms of new arrivals coming in, because no one's leaving Gaza with the Rafah border crossing closed. But it remains an unresolved loose end. And look, the closer we get to an election, you'd need to see that resolved before people go to the polls. We know that roughly, several thousand more visas have been approved. People are trying to get here. How's that going to look? What's going to happen here as well? Those are the sort of loose ends that need to be tied up. Otherwise, as you say, it is political dynamite for the coalition. They'll continue to chip away at this because it is the sort of issue that resonates in communities regardless of whether it's Victoria or anywhere else.
Spot on, and it's an area of great historical weakness for Labor. I'll leave it there, gents. Have a lovely weekend.